So we've been looking at a lot of different militaries and countries from all around the world. And here on FTD Facts, truth be told, we've had a lot of viewers tune into our last video about the facts of Norway, which may be awesome, but simply we forgot to do a video on how much power a country like this actually has. And because although it is small in terms of military, it's actually quite an important country that makes up defense for the entire world, and not just for itself. And today we look at Norway and figure out how powerful this country actually is. How is it going, everybody? Welcome to FTD Facts, the channel where I look at people, cultures, and places and militaries from all around the world. Said that really fast. I hope you all got it. Anyways, so like I said, today we're going to look at Norway because while we've done videos on Norway in the past, and we generally like to continue to talk about countries and look at them in different lights, so today we're looking at how powerful its military is. Now, how it works here on FTD Facts, if you guys are really liking this content, you want more Norwegian content, then just hit the like buttons, because like buttons help us determine if you guys want more videos around this country and the themes around it. Anyways, guys, let's get started and let's look at Norway and all of the powerful things it has going on for it. So the military of Norway is known as the Norwegian Armed Forces, or also known as Forsvaret, or even the defense. And the principal task of the Norwegian Armed Forces is to safeguard Norway's sovereignty and defend the country against external attacks. But how does it all break down? Well, firstly, the Norwegian Armed Forces has 4 branches, and that is the Royal Norwegian Navy, the Air Force, the Home Guard, and of course, the Army itself. So for Norway, the total population sits at approximately 5,230,045 people, with approximately 2,150,000 people that are considered as available manpower. But of that, only approximately 1,755,000 people are classified as fit for service. But that, of course, doesn't mean that everybody is actually a part of the military. Not everybody's just picking up a gun and going to town. Basically, the total military personnel of the Norwegian Armed Forces sits at approximately 72,500. And as for the personnel that are currently active within this military, it sits at approximately 26,500 people. The rest of that, which is approximately 46,000 people, are classified as reserve personnel. And you may be wondering, of this personnel, how does conscription work with them? Basically, Norway does have conscription, but in today's world, it's not what it used to be, and I'm going to explain that. Because in 2016, the country adopted what is classified as a somewhat weak form of it, which pretty much means if one is chosen, they have a 19th month obligation. But for this conscription, you can actually turn it down if you are somewhat of a conscientious objector. However, of its active personnel, they say approximately 6,800 to 7,000 conscripts are brought in a year. And to further expand on this, in the year of 2012, approximately 63,800 people were pulled in for the exam for conscription, but only about 9,800 of them were actually chosen. And although it doesn't apply to now, but I like to go into the history of this, of course, before all this, all young males had to serve. Of course, for the armed forces of Norway, believe it or not, it's not just for men, but today it's now also available for women. And as a matter of fact, women have actually had the right to enlist since 1985, but in 2015, they opened conscription to women, making Norway the first NATO country and European country to have conscription for both men and women. And of course, in today's world, one has to be at least 19 years old to join this army. Now, of course, this wouldn't be a really good power video if we didn't look at the numbers of the Norwegian Armed Forces in terms of equipment. Now, just to let you guys know before we get into the whole thing, some of these numbers may not be completely accurate because Norway probably doesn't tell everybody in the public what they actually have. They gotta just have some secret things that certain countries just don't know about. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But with that in mind, let's start with the Air Force. So now the total aircraft strength is over 128. And of this, 49 of these are classified as fighters. Now, this is exactly what I was talking about because when it comes to the number 49, I know it's not already accurate. So that is just an approximation. And the reason I say that is because Norway is going through a major modernization with its fighters. Because in history, they've had 46 F-16 Falcons, which they state that they currently still have in use today. However, it's also been stated that they have 16 F-35 Lightning IIs, but they say there's a total of 39 of these that are on order, and 7 of them are currently for training. So I'm not entirely sure on how many fighters, but I will say they do have these 2 types, the F-16 and the F-35, and there's going to be a lot new fighters for the country in a very short while anyways. Of this, they also have approximately 39 transports. Now, they also use the Lockheed C-130J, which they have 4 of them. They have approximately 32 trainers. Of course, several of these are the F-16 fighter. And you may be wondering, for helicopter strength, what is it like? Well, they have 35 of them. Most of them classify as utility or something of that nature. They unfortunately don't have any attack helicopters, and there's really no information on whether or not they will get attack helicopters in the near future. However, let's drop down to the ground and look at some of the things that the Army uses. For example, they say they have approximately 52 combat tanks in total. Now, of this, they use the Leopard 2A4 main battle tank, in which they state 36 of them are currently in operation. And currently, right now, there are talks of modernizing some of these tanks as well, even replacing some of them by 2025. For armored fighting vehicles, they have 684 of them, and 144 of them classify as the CV-90, which they get from Sweden. They also have approximately 54 self-propelled artillery, and it's also interesting to know that Norway doesn't also own or use any rocket projectors. I always found that a little bit weird. Now, jumping over to the Navy, they have approximately 62 Navy assets. Of course, this one is really hard to say because they haven't really given accurate numbers as well. And of course, Norway is changing some things when it comes to its patrol boats and, most importantly, its submarines. However, of this Navy, they have approximately 5 frigates, in which they have the Fridtjof Nansen class frigate. I also think when it comes to this frigate, it's a rather new type on the block because it was introduced, I think, around 2011, so it doesn't really need a lot of modernization, and it was preceded by the Oslo class frigate as well. And with that in mind, we should also mention that they have approximately 6 corvettes, and they do have 6 submarines. Now, I'm not sure about the status of this number exactly, whether or not it's 6 or 10 or somewhere in between that. The reason for that is because they did state that they were purchasing new German Type 212 submarines, which were to be delivered for 2019. Whether or not some of them have already been delivered, I'm not entirely sure. And currently right now they use the Ula class submarines, but I'm not sure if they're replacing them with these new type or whether or not they're just adding to them. And to finish off the numbers of the Navy, Norway has over 9 patrol vessels and approximately 6 mine warfare vessels. Now, probably the biggest question when it comes to Norway, and that is nukes. Do they have them? Do they use them? Are they for them? Of course, Norway is a country that does not have a nuclear arsenal, nor has done any nuclear testing. However, it should also be noted that Norway has not signed the UN Nuclear Weapon Ban Treaty. However, it is a part of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Now, of course, just because Norway did not sign the Nuclear Ban Treaty doesn't mean that Norway is for nukes. The reason they're pretty much against it is because they don't think countries like Russia, Pakistan, and other countries that do have nukes will actually abide by the ban and disarm. So therefore, they just think that in terms of their allies in the United States, it's not really good for NATO defense if they sign this treaty. And with that in mind, although Norway may be small, as I did just mention, it is a part of NATO. As a matter of fact, I found it interesting to know that Norway was one of the original members of NATO when it was founded. And just for anybody who wants to know when that was started, that was on August 24th, 1949. So they've been a part of NATO for a long, long time. But overall, the one big thing that we should look at when it comes to the Norwegian Armed Forces is budget. Because as of 2014, which is the most recent date, the budget for the armed forces in total came to 7.2 billion US dollars. Which means in that year, Norway spent approximately 1.62 of its total GDP on its military, which is actually below the recommended 2% for NATO countries. But of course, Norway hasn't always been like this. As a matter of fact, it's a rather evolving army, because back during the Cold War era, Norway was a country that focused on defense, building air bases and ground forces. However, by the 2000s, things changed and they've had more of a mobile operation in order to provide peacekeeping operations around the world. However, that is you and me learning about Norway and how much power this country actually has. And we didn't even talk about economy, because it is a very important country when it comes to its economy, but military is very important as well. So what are your thoughts on this, guys? Do you think it's more powerful than it's actually leading on? Let us know down there in the let me know down there in the comment section below. On top of that, guys, as I always say, if you guys are just loving this content and you want more Norwegian topics, well, just hit the like button, because that's how I can tell that you guys really, really like this stuff and you want more Norwegian topics. So be sure to do that. Of course, don't be afraid to check out our other stuff. We got some really cool videos. I'll put it at the end of this video for you guys to check out, and also in the description box below. But either way, today you and I learned a lot about how powerful Norway is. A great country that has always been a smart and tactical ally to the others of NATO and around the world. One that, of course, may question the motives of some arrangements around the world, but has always been there in terms of major events in need. From its involvement in Afghanistan, Kosovo, Bosnia, and many more operations, Norway has always been a country on guard. This is how powerful Norway is: the soldiers who act outside their own interests. So, hope you guys liked that video. Yeah, here's some other stuff that you guys should check out. If you haven't seen our Facts on Norway video, really, guys, give that a good look, because it's great to learn about Norway. I mean, I was really surprised about the stuff that was in this video or within this country. But other than that, feel free to tune in to us and, of course, have fun bumming around in the YouTube space. See you later.